Joining us now is the Attorney General of the great state of Tennessee, Jonathan Skrmetti. Jonathan, thank you so much for taking the time. This story is breaking and it involves the state of Maine. Walk our audience through it, and thank you for your moral courage on this topic.
Thanks for having me on, Charlie. So Maine is working on this bill, LB 227, that relates to transgender and abortion issues. And it basically says, not only is Maine going to have shield laws to prevent investigators in red states from getting evidence from Maine, it also creates a cause of action that will let people in Maine sue law enforcement in states that have different laws, even if the connection with Maine is fairly tangential. So if you have a gender clinic in Texas, but you're connected with Maine somehow, if you consult with Maine doctors, or if you fly someone in from Maine to work, you could potentially, as a prosecutor in Texas, be sued in Maine state court for enforcing laws that are entirely constitutional in your state solely because they don't comport with Maine law.
Has there ever been a piece of legislation, to your knowledge, like this? And this is effectively trying to create a sanctuary state for kind of trans surgeries. Is that a good way to frame it?
Well, I mean, I think it's even more than that. It's reaching into other states to try to punish people in those states for enforcing valid state laws that Maine disagrees with. And I'm not aware of any law like this that's happened in the past. It is completely antithetical to our Constitution, which says different states can have different laws. They're allowed to choose the laws based on the will of their people. The people of Tennessee don't want Maine law. That's why they don't live in Maine. And if the people who run Maine want Maine laws to be the way they are, they're limited to the territory of Maine for enforcing those laws. So each state needs to stay in its lane and respect its borders. This reaches outside those borders to try to inflict the Maine policies on every other state, no matter what the people of each state want.
And does that include people that have no affiliation with Maine at all whatsoever, or have never been to Maine? I mean, how would this even stand up constitutionally?
Well, I don't think it would stand up constitutionally, but we want to nip this in the bud. You know, the states exist to be separate. The Constitution provides some power to the federal government, but by and large, each state is governing itself and making a lot of important decisions based on the people who are close to that state government. And, you know, I think the Constitution precludes this law. I hope they don't pass it because it's setting a dangerous trend of states reaching into other states to mess with the business of law enforcement in those states.
So you're leading a charge to get more state attorneys general on board to fight this bill. How many other state AGs have joined your fight so far?
We've got 15 plus Tennessee on this so far, and this is moving pretty quick. So I'm sure there are others that would be inclined to join on as well.
That's just amazing. And so we have a lot of forward momentum here. We've seen basically child abduction laws in California, but is this proposed bill in Maine the most wide sweeping and expansive you've ever seen?
It is because of that private right of action. So not only are they trying to stop law enforcement from enforcing laws based on evidence in that state, but they're letting people reach back into the states that have laws restricting pediatric transgender interventions and letting them mess with those enforcers for doing their job. That goes even beyond what California's done, and California's law is already constitutionally suspect.
Well, Attorney General Skrmetti, anything else you want us to, on our audience, to be aware of this? And just can you kind of talk generally about, have you ever thought you'd be involved in using the AG's office in regarding to the massacring and the butchering of children? This must be a new phenomenon for you and your office.
Well, I mean, you know, we've been busy in Tennessee fighting the constitutional fight on juvenile transgender medical interventions. You know, we have a case that might be going up to the Supreme Court, the LW case, where we won. We were the first state to win in a case recognizing there is not a constitutional right for children to have these irreversible procedures. So this is not a topic that is alien to us, but I never thought we'd have to worry about other states retaliating against us using their state judicial systems. That's profoundly unconstitutional. America was designed with the idea of each state governing itself. And when people start to try to totalize what their states are doing, and inflict their will on other states, that undermines the democracy that makes our federalist system work.
Attorney General Skrmetti, thank you so much for joining us and for your leadership. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.